Welcome to the virtual sake brewing tour. Sake has been entwined with the lives and culture of the Japanese people throughout its long history. Joyous banquets and sake brewing are depicted in ukiyo-e woodblock prints. In this virtual tour, you will see firsthand how sake is brewed. Japan is home to countless sources of water, well known for their purity. This is one of them. Let's start our virtual tour with this well-known water. Delicious sake starts with clear, natural spring water. And rice grown with tender, loving care. It's time to harvest the rice. This is sake brewing rice. It's a special variety of rice grown for use in sake, slightly different from the rice normally used for food. Now, let's look at the brewery. This is the first step of the sake brewing process, rice milling. Rice is milled to remove the outermost layer of the rice for a cleaner taste. Look how much smaller the milled rice is than the brown rice. Next, the rice is washed and allowed to soak up water. The water absorbed by the rice during this step has a major impact on the quality of the finished sake. The washed rice is then steamed in a large wooden vat. There are only a handful of craftsmen in Japan that can make large steaming vats like these. The steamed rice is then removed from the steaming vats. This steamed rice is used to make the koji, starter culture, and fermentation mash. Koji is made from the steamed rice. Koji mold spores are mixed with the steamed rice and allowed to reproduce, creating koji. Koji making is precise work performed by hand and takes roughly 2 days. This labor-intensive koji making is necessary because rice does not have sufficient sugar for fermentation. Koji turns the starches in the rice into sugars. The amino acids created by the koji also impart umami and fragrance to the sake, creating a richer bouquet. Koji, steamed rice, and water are mixed together, and then yeast is added to create the starter culture. Starter culture contains a high concentration of excellent yeast used to ferment alcohol from fermentation mash. In Japanese, this starter culture is called shubo, which literally means mother of sake. A wooden keg called a warmer, filled with hot water, is placed in the mix to heat up different parts of the starter culture, ensuring that the saccharification and yeast growth processes remain in balance. This method of using wooden kegs for delicate heating adjustment has remained unchanged for hundreds of years. The brewers wait for the yeast to reproduce while carefully managing the temperature of the mix. It's now time for the fermentation step, creating the fermentation mash. Fermentation mash creation is performed in 3 stages, one of the notable features of sake brewing. The starter culture is transferred to a tank, and steamed rice, koji, and water are added. The unique 3-stage mashing process promotes yeast reproduction while inhibiting the growth of other molds. The koji turns the starch in the steamed rice into sugar, and the yeast turns that sugar into alcohol. This is called multiple parallel fermentation, with saccharification and fermentation taking place simultaneously. This fermentation method is a unique feature of sake. The last process is pressing. The fermentation mash is placed in cloth bags and lined up on a press called a fune. Pressure is then placed on the bags, squeezing the sake out. This is how sake nouveau is made. Sake brewing is a complex process, starting with rice milling and continuing on to koji making, starter culture creation, and multiple parallel fermentation. Sake nouveau has a pleasant, fresh taste, but aging produces a more mature flavor. A sugidama, or cedar ball, is hung from the eaves of the sake brewery. This lets the people of the community know that the sake nouveau has been successfully produced. Did you enjoy your brief tour of the sake production process? Japan has long had a culture of enjoying sake along with the changing seasons. In spring, people enjoy drinking sake as they take in the sight of the cherry blossoms in bloom. In summer, people have cool, refreshing, non-pasteurized sake as they watch beautiful fireworks light up the night sky. In autumn, people sip hiya-oroshi sake under the full moon while dining on the rich, fresh flavors of autumn's bounty. In winter, people heat themselves up with warmed sake, enveloped in the silence of falling snow. One of the wonderful things about sake is the enjoyment it brings us through its many faces during each of the 4 seasons. Enjoy these seasonal sakes yourself.